Omnipotent Government by the great Mises, or Ludwig von Mises. I'm going to read about this chapter of the Social Democrats, and specifically part 5, the Social Democrats and War. Marx was not a pacifist. He was revolutionary. He scorned the wars of emperors and kings, but he worked for the greatest civil war, in which the united proletarian of the world should fight the exploiters. Like all other utopians of the same brand, he was convinced that this war would be the last one. When the proletarian had conquered and established their everlasting regime, nobody would be in a position to deprive them of the fruits of their victory. In this last war, Engels assigned to himself the role of commander and chief. He studied strategy in order to be equal to his task when the day should dawn. And this is just one chapter of the amazing book called Omnipotent, exactly, Murray Rothbard. And if you look closely, there are countless marks and underlinings and check marks on the margins here in this books that were made by Murray Rothbard. He is one of the greatest economic scholars, and I'm highly honored to hold this book in my hand and to read from you. If you want to learn more about that, go to Mises.org and you can get the PDF document and the audiobook for free. So it's all up to you. If you want to get educated about Austrian economics, come on, it's easy, it is simple, and it is for free. And it is super nice to do because this is an interesting subject. So we are back here live for the World Crypto Network at the Mises University, the most pristine educational seminar that is a week-long seminar, and with a bunch of lectures by amazing people. All of those lectures are being live streamed on the Mises Media YouTube channel or at Mises.org. And of course, we here at the World Crypto Network realize that you can get the lectures. And so what we try to give you is the direct experience of the students and the professors that are here at the university bringing their amazing lectures. So as always, ask as many questions as you can because we will get them answered sooner or later by the great economists and by the great young students and smart minds here in this audience. It's going to be fantastic. We had an interesting morning. I did the live stream earlier this morning where I went through the classes that we're going to take. They were all amazing. And most of them are available online already because they were live streamed. But the one lecture I want to talk about in the beginning was one that was not live streamed, unfortunately, but understandably, by the great constitutional lawyer and judge, Andrew Napolitano. He is Italian, Jersey-born citizen, and he is a really nice guy. He's a great teacher, teaches with the Socrates tradition. So he actually puts a lot of value in participation of the community, and he asks difficult questions, and he puts you on the spot. And you have to defend a position, even though you might not personally like this idea. So this is really interesting, and I'm telling you, please, we're going to do the exact same thing here. Ask the questions in the chat, ask the questions on Twitter, because the questions are important, and we want to provide you the best amount of knowledge that we can. So what did the judge talk about? We talked, first of all, about the Declaration of Independence, which was, of course, the document that started the secession war from the English crown. This declaration was written by Jefferson, but it was edited by another 5 people that did not include Jefferson. And Jefferson was a radical libertarian. He believed in the principle of non-aggression. He believed in the principle of freedom. And it was this fundamental principle, just as it was for Rothbard, just as it was for me, just how it is for a bunch of people here at the Mises University. The beautiful thing about it, though, is that he really put it in beautiful words, and he made a radical but true and honest assessment of the situation. So he talked about that we humans are inherently and inalienably free. We have rights that are not given to us by any government, but we have rights that are endowed upon us by the Creator, that are endowed by us in the universe, or that are endowed by us just by logical conclusion. It does not matter how we got those laws. What matters is that we have them. And the most important of these laws is the right to private property. Why? Private property is pretty much the law that helps us as humans live in a prosperous society. And if you hurt private property, that is not a right, that is a wrong. So in the natural law tradition, it is defined in the negative statement, not in the positive. So in the positive statement, men write on a piece of paper, you have to get a license in order to sell firecrackers. Well, that is a positive law. It restricts your freedoms. On the other hand, there is the natural law tradition, which is negatively formulated. We basically start with anything and everything that is voluntary and that does not hurt private property is good. But as soon as you as an individual break private property, this is wrong. So you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not trespass, you shall not rape, and you shall not lie. Those are the 5 basic principles of natural law, and specifically private property. And you will realize that I always put the term "you shall not" in front. Why? Because it is a negative law. It gives you unlimited freedom, but then it restricts those freedoms as soon as you restrict the freedoms of others. Because you waive your right to liberty if you aggress against the liberty of others. And that is the basic concept of natural law. Seems quite simple, right? It's the non-aggression principle. Just don't hurt others. And that was the fundamental belief in the Declaration of Independence. And so what happened is the king, the British crown, and the government, the British government, they did not value natural law. No, they did not. They believed heavily in positivism, that they, the king, the crown, they had the right, developed by them by the creator, to go on and control people and rule people. And they used this power. By the way, I got here a page of notes just from this amazing lecture. So for example, they put on extra regulation by the king that fatigued the citizens to accept this regulation. So for example, if you were living in America, you were born in America, you're an American citizen, have been there all your life, and you do something that is according to American law 100% legal. For example, standing on the street corner and saying that you do not like this one politician, that you disagree with his opinion because you have another opinion. That is perfectly legal under the American law. But at the time, it was not legal at the British law. And so what happened is that the British king could send his troops, his British troops, on American soil, get you from America, put you on a ship, ship you to London, and then trial you in a British parliament after British law. So although you, as an American-born citizen, have never ever even lived in London and have never even talked to a British king or bureaucrat or whatever, you have to apply by their rules. That was basically their argument. So that was one basic reason where the crown dismissed natural law. Further, the citizens were legally, by the crown, British crown, prohibited to defend themselves. But then the government further said that we, the British government, will detract our defensive efforts to defend you. So you, number one, are not you're not allowed to defend yourself. And number two, we will no longer defend you if you mess with us and if you do something that we do not like. And of course, this is bogus. Of course, you have a right to defend yourself. You are a free human being and you have the right to life, liberty, and property, and especially property in your own body. And if someone tries to take away the property in your body, that is by murder, assault, maybe by theft if you steal someone's kidney, for example, that is wrong. And you not only can defend yourself, you have a natural right to defend yourself. And that is something that is inalienable. This right is not given to you by a government to defend yourself. No, you have it. That's it. Further, and those I now quote Jefferson, bureaucrats eat out the substance of citizens that are resisting them. So basically, the bureaucrats try to make it as expensive as possible for the citizens to defend themselves and to live a happy and prosperous life. And because it is so expensive, the citizens are incentivized not to live freely. For example, the Stamp Act. It was basically a government edict that said that every piece of paper, every single sheet of piece of paper, every book, every postcard, every letter has to have the government seal of approval, a little stamp. And if not, well, you had to pay it for that. And if you did not pay for that, you go to jail. So basically what did happen is that the government could sign their own search warrants, break into your house, and try or find papers that did not have the government seal of approval, and then arrest you. Basically what happened. Again, this is a fundamental break of natural law philosophy. You do not do that. If you have purchased this piece of paper in a voluntary contract, in voluntary exchange, it's yours. Because one other person that has produced this paper, if he's given it to you voluntarily, most likely has received something in return. For example, money. And now he is better off because he has received the money that he valued higher than the paper. And you're better off because you have received the paper, which you valued higher than the money. Both are better off. It's a win-win situation. No one is being hurt. Everything is voluntary. Everything is peaceful. So why would you restrict that? Why would you introduce aggression and violence in the system? Well, it is against natural law philosophy. Further, the crown did cut off the trade and did taxation without representation. Taxation without representation basically means that you get taxed, although you do not get any of the benefits, and you did not agree to this taxation. You might argue that taxation at anyhow is something violent and aggressive, and I would agree with that. I think taxation is theft because it's an involuntary payment. But the specific case here was the Stamp Act. So the American people did not have a right to be in the British Parliament, for example, and but they still have to pay the taxes for the stamps, which is really stupid. Furthermore, the crown was waging war, plundering seas, ravaging coasts, burning down towns, and destroying lives of citizens. Another quote by Jefferson. He was radical. He was a freedom fighter. He really believed in the stuff that he was saying. And again, did the king, or does the king, or does the government, or does anyone have the right to force you to do something, to kill people, to steal from people, to burn someone else's property? I would say no. Do you? That's the question. If you do, well, then you probably think that government is okay and that government is good. Because, well, it's not too bad if you only hurt a little amount of people, and then maybe some of the people, get benefits. But, I don't think that this is the case. So what was the conclusion? The United States, united with a lowercase u, states with a capitalized U, S, and the colonies, plural, important. The United States at that point were not one nation, not one federal nation, but individual states that acted independently. And all of them, to protect their own rights and to protect their own security and freedom, they said, we no longer accept this. We no longer can and we no longer want to accept this. And we have no other choice. Because we want to be free humans and we want to defend ourselves, the only choice that we see after months and months and years of petitioning, peaceful petitioning and peaceful argument, is that, well, we have to succeed. Basically, leave us the fuck alone. That's what they said, and that's what I still say to this day. As soon as it's voluntary, as long as it's voluntary, leave me alone. I do whatever I want to do, you do whatever you want to do, and we just don't hurt each other. How about that? So basically, this was the first class of the Amazing Judge Napolitano. You see, page of notes, just from the first 45-minute lecture. Come on. Unfortunately, really unfortunately, you will not see this content, but just Google his name. He has a bunch of lectures online that you can attend, and they are amazing. Get his books, they're also really good. And, well, join the Mises University next time. That would be amazing, right? So I see that we have many questions in the chat already. And the Crypto Squanch says, free audiobook? I'm down. Hell yeah. Education should be free. Why? Information, knowledge is a non-scarce good. That means if I possess the idea and I speak it to you, I still retain the original. So I don't have any loss. So if I give you my information, I'm better off, you're better off, that's perfect. Why should we not share information? Why would we try to hold it and restrict it? No. If we can produce something at no cost infinitely, we should. And we should share information as freely and knowledgeable. And this is why this great Mises Institute does exactly what it does. It provides all the PDF documents, most of the audiobooks to those PDF documents for free on Mises.org. What I use is an app called @Voice, and it's an app where you can read aloud any PDF document by a robotic voice. Doesn't sound that good, but it's still better than reading it, in my opinion. I like audiobooks, like podcasts and that kind of stuff. And it's for free. So if you want to get educated, get educated. Hello, Bitcoin, says Mustafa. Hell yeah, Bitcoin is the best currency, I think, out there. Why? It is censorship-resistant money that is produced on the private and voluntary market. Anyone and everyone in the Bitcoin community is there voluntarily. And what have I been saying? Anything that's peaceful, right? And in Bitcoin, everything is peaceful. We saw that at the hard fork with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, right? A couple people that no longer agree with the Constitution, with the consensus rules, with the, well, you could say it's a constitution, with the Satoshi Nakamoto consensus. They no longer agreed with it. We agreed, the Bitcoiners agreed, that we will have the security parameter of 1 megabyte blocks. Some others said, well, okay, security is not that important for us. We want to have on-chain scaling now. We want to make the blockchain a bit more efficient, but we really need this on-chain scaling now. So what do we do? Well, we don't like it, so don't force us to. Actually, you cannot force us to, because hopefully we all run our own full nodes that enforce the Constitution, that enforce Satoshi Nakamoto consensus. And so they couldn't force us to change it, right? Because we voluntarily choose to do that. But what they could do, is actually what they did, was create a copy of Bitcoin. Why? It is open source. Bitcoin is, in that sense, a non-scarce good. It's information. It can be shared freely and openly. And once you share information, you can copy it and adapt it. And that's what they did. They made a copy of Bitcoin. They adapted a few parameters, made their own version that they agreed to using, and now they're using it. Isn't that fantastic? That's what I call anarchy in money. That's why I'm writing my bachelor thesis on exactly that. Why we neither need nor want government regulation in money. It's going to be an interesting topic. If you want to support me writing that, go to towardsliberty.com/anarchy and find out more about the paper. Of course, it's written under the Creative Commons license in an open source writing approach. So if you want to contribute, feel free to do so. I would gladly appreciate it. IBLB, he's got extreme libertarian views. I really do, yes. I have extreme views and radical views because I believe in radical freedom. How horrible is that? I believe that we humans should not hurt each other. How horrible is that? I believe that we should not steal from each other. I think we shouldn't. If you think the same, well, congrats, you're an anarchist, basically. You might still think that the government is useful in some things, like, for example, military defense, or maybe even education, or some say that we need the government to build roads, which honestly, I'm streaming to you live from a laptop that is like 7 years old. Honestly, I think we have the capabilities of building a flat surface. I think we can handle that without violence, without aggression. I really think we can. Niko at Omnifin, he's the host of the Maximum Liberty podcast, which is amazing. Maximum Liberty, right? He says, good to see me. Well, thank you very much. Bitcoin is the declaration of financial independence. Absolutely. With Bitcoin, we have the chance to finally take self-ownership over our finances again. You can use the fiat money, the dollars, the euros, the yens, the rupees of the world. You can use that, but you have no control whatsoever over them. We have no idea what the Federal Reserve is going to do next Friday. Are they going to pump interest rate? Are they going to put it down? I don't know. How much money are they going to print and put in their own pockets and the pockets of their friends? I have no idea. And I cannot control them. I cannot change that. But what I can do is exit the system. There's the door. It is called Bitcoin. And if you run your own Bitcoin full node, you choose the rules that you run. And not only do you choose the rules, but you enforce them. If you run a Bitcoin full node, you verify each and every transactions in the entire Bitcoin network if they play by the rules. If they do not, ignore them. If they do, well, perfect. Then they are playing by the rules. So when running a Bitcoin full node and when holding your own Bitcoin private keys, you are the owner and the controller and the king of your own money. but you're only the sovereign within. You're only the sovereign of yourself. You're not the sovereign over someone else. Because we do not have masters, we do not have slaves. We are free humans that are all equal under the natural law. IBLB says that the role of government should be very, very, very minimal, not tossed in the trash, bro. Well, yeah, again, that is a valid view. Many people believe that we do need some violent interaction to force people to pay, for example, the free rider problem. So if you live in a big city and you have to pay for national defense, for example, if you're a small person that does not pay this voluntary payment in a free society, you still get the benefits of the national defense that the other people are paying for. So in a sense, yeah, there is a kind of a free rider problem. Is this bad? Well, I don't really think so. And there's a nice book. It's called The Machinery of Freedom by David D. Friedman, the son of Milton Friedman. He is not an anarchist. He is a Chicago school monetarist. But in this book, he describes the machinery of freedom. And he has a long section on military contracts and private military. So go out and read that. Would you have another book about that subject, military private defense? We're thinking about a new book. I'll get back to you in a second. But yeah, absolutely. You can have a minimal government. That's the cool thing about anarchy. As soon and as long as this government is voluntary and that all people in this government actually like to be there and want to be there, I'm all for this. You can have hardcore communism if everyone in your commune is good with that. You can do it. I can tell you that communism sucks on an economic level and that you do not have prices in a communistic society, and therefore you cannot ration and allocate your goods. So I would say it's BS and not really useful, and it will decrease prosperity, not increase prosperity. But you can do it as long as it's voluntary, as long as it's peaceful. Do whatever you want. The golden rule, says Chaotic Crypto. Absolutely, that's the national law principle. That's the non-aggression principle. The golden rule. It's nothing new. Jesus talked about that. By the way, Jesus was a big anarchist. He did not believe in government, he did not believe in monopoly banking, and he wanted to help the people wherever he could, and he believed in a free and a voluntary revolution. That's exactly what he did. So if you read Jesus like that, yeah, I'm kind of a Catholic Christian, although I do not subscribe to one institution for my religion. Home of the Free, nice name, says, what about public property like groundwater? Belongs to Nestle? Well, interesting. There are 3 nice books that I can recommend on that subject. They're all by Walter Block. And it's the privatization of roads, the privatization of water, and the privatization of space. All available, I think, for free at the Mises.org site. You might have to buy them at the bookstore. I'm not 100% certain here, but they're definitely worth a read. So go out there and get them. He basically says that all the problems that we have with the water right now, that we have overfishing, for example, is that we do not have private property. Because as soon as you have private property, the owner is incentivized to take care of his private property. How does your house look? Is it completely messed up? Or is it kind of clean? Yeah, it might be some stuff laying on the floor. Yeah, but like, is it in good shape? I would most likely say, yeah, it is. Why? It's yours. And you are responsible of keeping it clean. And that's what you most likely will do, right? So I am all for privatization of water. I think it will save countless of lives. It will save countless of fish, absolutely, because you no longer overfish if you have property in the fish. Although, I do think that animals also do have the natural right philosophy, although this is kind of like a small opinion that not many people share. But that's why I'm a vegan, because I think you should not attack animals and hurt them and eat their meat. And I don't think you should steal from animals and drink their milk or eat their honey. Well, that's my niche opinion. I think, my opinion is that I want to live as close to the natural law principle as I can. So I do not aggress or violate the property of humans. I do not aggress or violate the property of animals. And I try to not aggress and violate the property of nature. Just leave others be. That's my whole philosophy. So Omnific Niko says again, government has one very specific purpose: to violently confiscate property by the guise of protectionism. Agreed, 100%. That's what the government does. They do violate property by definition, because if you define the state as a state that is maybe elected by the people, but it has the power to control other people, it has the power to edict laws that are enforced under the threat of violence. So for example, Obamacare, oh great, socialist Obamacare, hell yeah, let's get me started on that. Obamacare created 40,000 new laws. But what is a law? It is not a negative law that limits the power of government. It is a positive law that limits your liberties. And so basically, Obama did not just create 40,000 new laws. He created 40,000 new crimes. Voluntary and peaceful interactions, like entering in a private contract between a sick person and an insurance company, which is both voluntary, so they can do whatever they want, but he is actively limiting that. And if you now go into a private contract, you as the sick person with the insurance company, you are forbidden to do that. And if you do it, you will have to pay a fine, eventually go to jail. And if you do not comply with that, they will shoot you. That's how government works. Every right, every law that the government creates is a right that they take away from you, by definition, always. So, Chaotic Crypto says, divine providence. Sounds definitely nice. I don't really get your point, so please elaborate. Omnifin says again, public infrastructure should be tokenized and ownership distributed freely. Interesting. So I guess that goes into the question, because at the current stage, we do have government control in all the property, in all the real estate, right, in all the land. And this is not good because the government does not know how to allocate resources and they waste a bunch of resources. Have you ever seen a bureaucrat being effective? Come on, guys. So the question is, how can we actually... Would you like to join?
No, I got to do something for a second.
Okay, maybe next time.
Okay.
Try to get Bob Murphy on here. Great book that he's written, many nice ones. Let me think of the best one I've written of him so far. Let me actually look that up because I'm blanking on this books that he has written. 1 second. So Bob Murphy, let's see, books. I mean, he is at the Contra Krugman show where he basically destroys Krugman and Keynesian economics, which is nice of him to do. Oh yeah, he has written a phenomenal study guide to the amazing Mises Human Action. So definitely read that if you go through Human Action, because Human Action is a tough read. What else did he write that was really nice? Yeah, he also had the study guide to Rothbard's Man, Economy, and State, which is fantastic. And he has the lessons of the young economist. If you are young in economics and you want an introduction, this is a great book to read. So yeah, go out and read him. Hopefully we're going to get him on the podcast in just a second. So Omnifin also says, Niko says, that to create a positive game theory scenario. Yes, game theory, incentive structures are really important. Why? Well, if we do not want to force people to do what they should do, we should incentivize them. Because incentivization is by definition not violent. It is not aggressive. We just suggest people to do something, and we set the outcomes that they will most likely do it. And this works in both ways. You can have bad incentives that create a bunch of horror and destruction, like, for example, the fiat system. Talk about the Jürgen Holzmann ethics of money production and the cultural consequences of money production. He goes about the incentives in there. Great lecture. Go out, watch that. Or you can have that in the positive way. For example, the incentive structures in Bitcoin, which are, of course, phenomenal, right? Bitcoin works phenomenally well. So that is great. Why? Because the incentives are aligned perfectly. So next question. Again, Niko asks. Niko, thank you for those many questions. We have to get you on the show somehow. Hopefully when I figure out how to do the Google Hangout setup. So where owners profit from what are considered free riders in the current system. Okay, so that is the follow-up to the incentives thing. Exactly. Free riders will always be there. They will always be there, because it's just a human thing to try to remove your uneasiness as cheaply and as efficiently as possible. And free riding falls under this category, right? You want to go to some place, you don't want to pay for the bus ticket, so you're just going to hop on the bus ticket. You have removed your uneasiness at basically no cost. Isn't that great? So the trick is to incentivize the people to not do that. what could you do? Well, maybe, for example, the Mises University, how they do it. They want to incentivize people to read their books, but they still want to share the knowledge as much as possible. So you can get all the PDF documents for free at Mises.org, most of them. But if you want to have the real books, you can come, and let me show you this, to this beautiful, beautiful library. By the way, nice fireplace, right? And you can come and, well, read those books in person if you want to do that. And you can, that's the beautiful thing. So, I want to see Murray up here. So yeah, incentive structures, that's all the way. Okay. Niko says again, please, other people also questions. I would like to answer your questions as well. Just skipped. Oh, wow. Okay, we do have a bunch of more questions. Mitko says, Bitcoin is an event that we should try and make sure is useful for making other people thinking about the values of Bitcoin that Bitcoin represents. He continues, not true. Sovereign, of course, depends on what kind of society you live in. Okay, so the first thing, I 100% agree. Bitcoin's philosophy, Bitcoin's ethics, Bitcoin's foundational arguments are freedom. Freedom to choose which currency you're going to use, but also sound money. So we're not going to steal from you with inflation. No, you own your money and it is sound. It does not change. It is unchangeable. It is not controllable by anyone because you own it and you have all the powers over it. And that is the ethics of Bitcoin. And well, that is phenomenal, to be honest. And that's why I am active in this community. And that's why I live on Bitcoin since over 1.5 years, Bitcoin, gold, silver. Because why? I want to show people that it is possible and that you can do it. And you can exit the system if you want to. And when doing this, you can not only make a bunch of profit, because Bitcoin will most likely, hopefully, continue to go up. You can also educate the people on economics, on the values of money, and on the ethics of money. And if we do that, we will hopefully thank you for supporting the World Crypto Network with all the stuff that you do in the live chat. Voluntary taxation is the only solution. But that's a logical fallacy. Can we have voluntary taxation? Because what is taxation defined as? It's the involuntary payment of a money without the receiving of a direct service for it, right? That's how I define taxation. So as soon as the transaction, the payment from the individual to the government is voluntary, it is no longer taxation. No, it is a payment for a service. So to say that there are voluntary taxation, no, doesn't exist. Taxations are by definition not voluntary, and by definition not peaceful and aggressive. So I would like voluntary taxation, but that's just a free market. Okay, I got time for one more question, so let's pick out a good one. Raw Power says, go vegan, go vegan. And, I don't want to force you to do anything. So this is, of course, just my opinion. Do whatever you like. If you want to be a carnivore, as many Bitcoin maximalists are, do it. I'm not going to stop you. But I ask myself that. We in Bitcoin, we believe in freedom. The freedom for people to choose the currency that they're going to use. And we respect the freedom of other humans to choose that, right? We respect the natural law principle. Of course we do, because it's logical. It's nonsensical to think that you should kill people. Come on. But the question is, does this also apply to animals? Are animals conscious? And if yes, does this consciousness that they have justify the natural law principles? Because I would say, well, we humans are conscious, therefore we have natural rights. And if you believe this, and I understand that this is a really minority opinion, you should not eat meat. Further, do you want to slaughter something, kill something, and fill it with fear and rage, and then consume it? I don't. I actually want to consume something that is produced by the sun, that is grown, that is prosperous, that can regrow, and that actually, stimulates nature. And if you eat plants and vegetables, you eat the sun, pretty much. And you do not eat fear, but you eat love. So I also like this argument. Plus, at Anarchapulco, a great conference about anarchy, freedom, and Bitcoin, right? I met a couple raw vegans. were two ladies. I walked up to them. In my mind, I thought, wow, those are roughly like 30, 35 years old. They still look pretty good for their age. That's what I thought. Turns out after the conversation, they are not 30. They are 75. 75, and they have been completely vegan for over 50 years. Raw vegan. So they do not even cook their food, which burns the food. They only eat it raw. So juices, vegetables, fruit, all that kind of good stuff. And if you look into the medicine aspect of it, if you are a raw vegan, you are pretty damn healthy. I've not met a raw vegan guy that was unhealthy and fat. So there are some aspects to it. I like it. If you want to consume meat, do it. Like, I'm not going to stop you. It's a free world. Do whatever you want. I personally think that you shouldn't hurt animals, but I do get the point that animals are not as conscious as we are. Therefore, they do not have as many rights as we do. That's true, but in the same argument, you could say if an alien comes to the world and it is exponentially more conscious than we are and super, super smart, like multidimensional thing, and it cannot communicate to us because we have such a low consciousness compared to him. Does then he have the right to kill us because he has more consciousness? I think not, because I think we do have consciousness, and consciousness is something beautiful that we should celebrate. But again, my opinion, I know that it's a new subject, but so is Bitcoin, so is anarchy, so is freedom. That's why I'm out here, to put out my point of view. You don't have to accept it. You have to respect it. You have to give me my right to free speech, but also I give you your right to free speech. So think about whatever you want to think about. And actually, I'm already running late. I'm going to miss the first couple seconds of the next lecture, which will be, just check out my Twitter where I'm going to put it. It will be The Theory of Interest by Jeffrey Herbener. Great thing, time preference, and really fascinating topic, really interesting in Bitcoin as well. So go to Mises.org or Mises Media on YouTube, link in description, and check out the live stream. Please, 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 please support the World Crypto Network, because they provide you with amazing content pretty much 24/7 all around the world. That's amazing. Bitcoin address in the description below. Also, please support the Mises Institute, because it's amazing and they really do appreciate your help. And I do as well, because the Mises Institute paid for a scholarship for me to be here. So thank you very much for all the donors that have donated. I myself did quite a bit of donation, not quite a bit. I gave them a few Satoshi. So absolutely, I appreciate your help. Please check out the WorldCryptoNetwork.com, check out Mises.org. And you can find my stuff on Twitter @HildebrandMax, and my personal website is towardsliberty.com/Bitcoin for my Bitcoin library, /economics for my economics library, bunch of Austrian stuff, /anarchy if you want to support my paper that I'm writing. Thank you very much for joining us today. This has been a 40-minute quick call. Unfortunately, nobody could join us because it's kind of lunch break. People eat. I don't really eat that much. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we'll see you again in just a second. Thank you very much.